Hi everyone, Victoria Jennings here with Taking Care of Business. I hope your day or evening is going well. Welcome to the live, and I really hope to see a few people on here. As you come in, please say hello and just let me know where you're coming from. That would be awesome. And if you're watching the replay, please comment replay. That would also be great. All right, so today I wanted to talk about the four pillars that you need in place to have a scalable business. And I normally talk about the profiling traits, right? I talk a lot about the profiles. Well, underneath the profiles in your business, there's also the four traits show up as pillars. I call them pillars because they're pillars in your business that you work on. But they are related, absolutely, because in order to do these pillars, you need to be a genius in that zone in your profile trait, your predominant trait. Okay. So I'm just going to walk you through what that looks like today. And this is actually what we cover in a lot of detail and implement in my signature program, the Roadmap to Millions Bootcamp. Okay. We cover all of these bases. And therefore, we've got to make sure that the perspective of business, there's four different perspectives of business to come from, and we've got to have all of those four equally given attention. If we don't, then we're limping or we're bleeding or we're not starting or we can't complete things. Like there's a whole lot of stuff that will go on. But unfortunately, because of the profile that we are, we're often blind to some of these areas. And so we don't do them very well, especially in the startup phase when we're trying to get everything sorted ourselves. So we can't see what we can't see often. And this causes issues and problems in your business. It might be bottlenecks, or it might be, sales are not where you would like them to be, or it could be that you just simply don't have systems and processes to make sure you can service your clients appropriately. And what happens when all four areas are not in balance, you have fires, you have little explosions everywhere of things going wrong. And so you always feel like you're putting out those fires and not moving forward and not moving ahead. It's because you've got things missing, usually. All right. So that's what we're going to look at today. So as I said, I'm shifting the conversation from the entrepreneurial traits to operational structure and functionality today. Okay. So the areas that I'll be talking about today are strategy, communication, implementation, and systems. All right, they're the ones that we'll be focused on today, and they're the different perspectives of business and different pillars of business that we need to have sorted in our business if we want to scale it. If you're not interested in scaling it, then this video is not for you. If you're happy to be the center of attention, doing everything yourself, and going to six figures but not beyond, then this video is not for you. Okay. This is about if you want to go beyond the six figures. Okay. All right. So, if your business feels like it's almost working, but something keeps breaking or it feels stagnant, chances are you're missing one of the pillars, one of the four essential pillars out of your business. And like I said before, you either are just not so great at it, so you don't pay it as much attention, or you cannot, because of the way you're built, you cannot even see one of those areas, which is causing a whole lot of problems. And you're not even aware that it's causing the problems. You think you'll be blaming something else, or you blame yourself or whatever, but it's actually how you've put your business together. Okay. So a team operates best in a business that is fully understanding that we need these four pillars to make the business robust, for the team to be engaged as well, so that they're not putting out fires all the time, and and how the way you are, the way your profile is saying you are, how that shows up in your business. Now, when I do these debrief strategies, these calls, This is exactly what I go into. That's why I ask everyone to do their profile before they come on the call, because I can actually see their profile. Then I hear about their business, and then I can fill in the gaps in a very short 15-minute conversation. I know where your gaps are, right? Just from how your business is showing up and the profile that you are. So your strategies and products, your sales and marketing, your delivery and service, your systems and processes all have to be given equal attention. They all need to be balanced, okay? So each pillar that I mentioned before, strategy, communication, implementation, and systems, each of those pillars are like a division or zone in your business operations, okay? And they have to be optimized in your business in order to scale, in order to get past one and a VA. All right. So let's talk about strategy number one. We always start with strategy. Why do we always start with strategy? Because everything begins with an idea, and this is where all the ideas come from. All right. Every business begins with a business idea. Every product begins with an idea. Every service begins with an idea. So that's why we start with strategy. Okay. So this is where in the business we put together our vision, our mission, our values, our strategic plans, our priorities, and our positioning. So if you haven't done that, and this is what I see, especially coaches do, they don't put that in place. They go straight to sales and marketing. Okay, but this is where your direction comes from for your business. This is where your compass is, your North Star. And we all need that compass in order to know where we are now, where we want to get to. Then we can figure out how we're going to get there. And we figure out how we're going to get there through our strategies that we put in place. I mean, the big strategic strategies, the big audacious goals, if you like. The goals come underneath strategies. I won't go into all of that. But the business plan, for example, is a strategy. It's strategic. It's looking forward in time. And, strategy is about the future. Okay. So we need to know where we're heading in the future. Our team needs to know where we're heading in the future, or we're not going to get there. How do we know we've arrived at our destination if we haven't even mapped out the plan to get to the destination? We might see some lovely things, but we might be going so far off track that it's going to take us 10 years to get to where we want to go because we haven't yet figured out what that direction is. Okay. So this includes, as I said, the overarching business plan and all of the strategies that fall out of that. So this is the marketing plans, the sales plans, the customer service plans, strategies, big strategies, right? The systems that we're going to use at the strategic level. Okay. All the systems that we need, and maybe the research is done later, but the systems that we need in order to fulfill our promise, because business is simply an exchange of promises. I promise to do this for you, and you promise to pay me that to do it. That's it. That's business. Now, if we break our promises, we have a problem. We have a problem with reputation. All of this that I'm talking about now, putting these pillars in place, are going to save your reputation. And if you don't have a reputation, you don't have a business. And your reputation can be destroyed overnight. Overnight. I've seen it happen time and time and time again. All right, so we want to make sure that's not going to happen. So we have marketing strategies, operational team strategies, partnership strategies, okay? This is where we identify what the business model is going to be for us. And the business model will depend on the profile that you are, because there's 4 different models that you can choose from. And it's best to be in alignment. Those models are best to be in alignment with who you are, because that's the one you're going to do best. That's your genius zone, right? You need to have all the growth strategies sorted out before you even start the business. This is where the future mapping of your business is. This is where we prove the concept. This is the big picture focus for our business. 5-year strategic plan, 12 months strategic plan. Okay, I know some people, some gurus, the gurus have a 100-year business plan because they intend to have a legacy in their business that will go on way after they've left the planet. I'm not kidding. So people do that. Wealthy people do that. Okay. So when this is missing, so if you've got it missing or very low percentage in your profile, okay, then you're probably missing this pillar in your business. I'm talking extremes, but it's on a pendulum, so it happens in gradients, all right, in your business. But I'm gonna talk extremes, either end of the scale, for the purposes of this conversation, all right. So when you're missing it completely, and you're probably saying, "Oh, how could you miss it?" I know someone who's got 0% of this going on in their makeup. And what did they struggle with? Starting their business. Because this is where you start your business. Okay. 18 months they've been trying to get their business off the ground. Because they had zero this. They couldn't see what they couldn't see. All right. So in this space, when you don't have this going on, you're really, really busy, but you're not moving the needle forward. There's lots of action. There's lots of things you're developing, but none of it's getting out to market. Okay. So you're reacting, not directing, often putting out many fires due to lack of strategic plans and lack of direction. And your team feel it. If you've got a team, they feel, and I've worked with a franchising company where this was the case. The CEO was coming from the systems space, and their systems were absolutely beautiful, perfect, wonderful. But they had no one in the executive team that had any of this strategic stuff going on. And the main complaint coming from their franchisees was there was no direction in the company. And that was right, because the CEO wasn't focused on that. He was focused on systems, which is good for a franchise. That's great. But you also need that compass. They didn't have one. Okay. So the compass guides your business. It puts the business back on track as well. And business plans and strategic plans that I'm talking about are the ones that we use as live documents, not the ones that you do once and put on the shelf and you don't look at it again till next year. I'm not talking about that. That's not how you do it. That's what ends up happening in a lot of businesses, but that's not the way to use them. All right. So, and when it's overused, so in other words, you might be like me, where I've got 80% of this going on in my makeup, okay, which is a lot, then you could be planning endlessly and building things endlessly and being creative, but nothing gets implemented. That has happened to me a lot in the past. I'm aware of it now. I can see other things that I have to do now. But in the beginning, I couldn't. So I thought if something wouldn't sell, that the product, something wrong with the product, I'll build another product. I kept doing that for a long time before I got my first sale. Okay, so you see how this plays out. See how this affects your business. This can affect your business for years if you don't have these things in place properly, equally, and giving them all equal attention. Okay. But if you don't understand this, you don't even know what's going on. You're frustrated, but you can't put your finger on why it's happening. Okay. So you end up with beautiful plans but nothing finished to sell. You end up with client acquisition and retention always putting out fires. Okay, because you're too future focused, not present focused. Okay, and your systems can't support growth or scaling. That can often be symptoms of that being missing. All right. So strategic profiles, of course, thrive here, being all about big picture and focused on the future and loving to develop new things all the time. Okay. Now we move to the communication pillar. So this is where attraction, influence, and outreach happens. Okay. So it includes your branding, your message to market, social media, operational team, sales, marketing, lead generation, public relations, promotions, networking, partnerships. All of that happens in this pillar. And this is where I see most people focus, but only on lead generation usually and selling. A little bit of marketing, social media. That's where I see most businesses, when they begin, that's where they think they've got to go to first. And it's actually the second place they've got to go to, not the first place. Okay. So when this is missing, you're amazing, but invisible. Okay. So no one knows what you do. No one knows you exist if this isn't sorted. When overused, in other words, you put all your attention on it, then you're doing all the talking, you're raking in the money, but you may be having lots of issues with clear direction, the delivery of whatever it is that you're selling. You may be experiencing failure in the systems that support the sales that are coming in, and therefore your customers, clients are not happy. Things are falling over. You've got plenty of them, but things are falling over. Okay, see, this is making sense? All right, so then the implementation pillar, this is where delivery happens. This is where consistency happens. This is where execution happens in the business. So this is where we onboard clients, we nurture the clients, and we retain clients. This is where we look after complaints. This is where we look after service delivery. This is where we look at harmonizing the team, keeping them in harmony. This is where we look at all the logistics of the business that has to get done in order to serve a product or service and get it out there to our paying clients, right? Project implementation, that's where this happens. So the strategic plans come down to implementation to be divided up into manageable projects that the implementers put in place. That's how it works. Administration is done here. This is present time, getting things done now. Okay? Negotiations happen here. Getting the best price happens here when you're purchasing anything for your business. Basically, getting it done. All right? Getting it done. Scheduling. I don't know if I mentioned that. Scheduling happens here. Anything to do with timing happens here. This is where the rubber hits the road. Okay? So when it's missing, ideas are piling up and piling up and piling up, but remaining ideas. Clients churn and complain. Okay? Your time is maxed out. Inefficiency, there'll be inefficiencies in service delivery because you might not have the systems in place to support the service delivery. Right? And when overused, you're constantly in delivery mode. So there's no time to grow the market. Everyone's busy, but not necessarily with the most important things that need to be done or focused on. And also, it's where the people doing that can't get into the helicopter, all right, because they're on the ground. They're in the thick of things in present time. They can't get up and look in future time from the helicopter view to look at exactly what's going on and where the gaps are in the business. They simply cannot do that. They don't have that altitude. All right. This is why we need each other. This is why we need all four pillars to be balanced. Okay. So with implementational profiles, they excel here in these spaces, and they're being focused because they're being focused on getting things done. They love checklists and they love connecting with clients and customers and team. All right. Real connection, not just conversation. connection. And that brings us to systems and processes. All right, so the systems and processes, the role in the business for that is optimization, predictability, and scalability. It looks like automation, maybe licensing and franchising system. It's the legalities of the business happens here, the contracts, the agreements are drawn up. Compliance happens here, quality improvement, standard operating procedures, financial systems and tracking them, measurements of everything, KPIs and data analysis, and repeatable workflows. Pretty important spot, okay? This is where we make sure we're making a profit. Communication is where we make sure we're making the revenue. Systems is where we make sure we're making a profit. Systems make us scalable. Communication makes us sellable. Is this all starting to make sense? I hope so. So when it's missing, you're reinventing the wheel every time. You don't know if you're profitable, and you're probably suffering with burnout. It becomes normal. And your business isn't scalable. You cannot grow it because you don't have systems in place to grow it. And you definitely wouldn't be making money in your sleep because you'd have no systems to be able to do that. All right. When overused, you systematize so early that you stifle creativity and flexibility. You want perfection first, and so it never gets started, never gets off the ground. It's never the right time to launch because it's still not perfect. Clear direction may be missing because you totally focus on systems and you think the systems will run the business. This is over the top overuse. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, the business could have analysis paralysis. Analyze again, research again. Still not certain. I think I'll stay where I am, right? And logistics may be neglected. Okay. So the logical profiles live here in this space. They have great attention to detail. They analyze everything from every angle, and they spot patterns very easily in the business. And so they can drill down and see what might be going on in the business that's not so good for the business. Okay. So most entrepreneurs build their businesses from their dominant perspective and unconsciously avoid or can't even see the other areas, the other perspectives or the other pillars. They just can't see them. So strategic entrepreneurs build castles in the sky but forget to bring them down to earth. Communicative entrepreneurs build businesses that are all voice and no backbone. Implementational entrepreneurs get stuck in the doing and never get up in the helicopter view. And logical entrepreneurs overbuild and undercommunicate. So we've got to balance all these perspectives equally and surround ourselves with people and systems that complement our blind spots. But first of all, we have to know what those blind spots are. And most business owners and entrepreneurs I meet don't know they even have blind spots. Not aware of them. So how can they fix them? And how can their business ever be operating at optimal level when they can't even see what they can't see? That happens so often. It's ridiculous. Until I give them a pair of glasses that have got 4 lenses in them. And then they can see their business from the 4 different perspectives that they need to see their business through. Then they know the teams they need to have on board to help them. They know who the contractors should be that they should be working with. And they're not the people who are the same as us. They're people who are different to us, coming from different perspectives. If we had a whole lot of strategic profiles working together on a business, there'd be so many wonderful ideas, but nothing would get done. It's the same thing with all of the profiles. We have a great party, but the business would never work. That's why we need complementary people on our team. And often we don't know who they are because we can't see that perspective and therefore can't see those people that we need. Is this all starting to make sense? I hope it is. Okay. If you'd like to find out more about this, if you'd like to know if your business has blind spots in it that may be holding you back right now, and if you're sick of putting out fires and wondering why there's all these fires going off all the time, and then you can't get to growing the business because you're always putting out fires, okay, then I really encourage you to get on a call with me, a debrief call. I want you to do your profile before you get on the call with me so I know exactly who we're dealing with and what perspective of business you're coming from. And then we can look at those 4 pillars that are in your business and we can see where the gaps are or where you're completely blindsided to it and therefore struggling with it. All right. It's really important because you'll be limping or bleeding, one of the two, if you don't have all 4 organized. Okay. And I can't stress how important this is. I can't stress enough. And I don't care what stage of business you're at. I don't care what industry you're in. I don't care how big your business is. I don't care how long your business has been operating for. I know that your business is going to have holes in it. So it's not operating at the optimum level without these pair of glasses. It's just not. I know that before I even speak with you. Okay? Even the gurus, they focus on one area. And I hear it in their language and I know where their blind spots are. And they're making millions. Great, good on them. That's fantastic. Some of them are making 100 million, but they're only focusing on one thing. They could be making 200 million. I mean, I don't know. But there's always blind spots. There's always blocks. There's always things that are not being done properly simply because of our perspective on business. Okay, that's why I love what I'm doing. That's why I really want everyone else to understand this, because once you learn it, you have it forever and you'll never look at business the same way again. Okay, everyone, really love being here with you. Again, as I said, let me know where you come from. Let me know if you're on the replay. And I look forward to seeing you again next week in Taking Care of Business.